Hey friends, it's Jessi. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another 3 looks and mini review / comparison video. Today we're going to be going over the new Nomad Cosmetics Ghost Town palette. Look how fun this is. I cannot wait to show you guys the looks that we created. You'll definitely have to let me know which shades out of this palette that you're looking at because I think it is a beautiful palette. But let's go ahead and dive into our 3 looks. For today's look, I think I want to jump into some of these warmer brown tones. I know there's a lot of cool tones in this palette and we will get to those. I love a good cool tone moment, but look how pretty these warm tones are. I'm kind of feeling like that's the direction I want to go today. So let's go ahead, we'll dive right in with those. First, I'm going to dive into this matte Taupe shade. This is Undead Sheriff and it looks like it's going to be the perfect crease shade for us, a nice transition. I'm just going to take that on a fluffy brush and then I'm going to buff that in the crease. All of the mattes are cooler toned, so I'm going to do a cooler toned base and then we'll put some of the warmer shimmers over it. This shade in particular reminds me a lot of one of my favorite shades in the Nomad Hudson Valley palette, and that is Apple Cider Donut. It is just a perfect cool tone crease shade. It's kind of like Twig and the ABH Sultry. It's just a nice neutral cool tone base. Next, I'm going to go into that brown that is just a step darker, Bandit Queen, and we're going to go ahead and pop this also in the crease. I'm going to use more of a concentrated blending brush to do that. And we're just going to build up some depth, especially in the outer part of my eye, just to give it that nice deep set look. Next, I'm going to pop into that deepest brown Deadwood, and I'm just going to put that right in my outer corner. I'm not really going to bring it over onto the crease at all. I'm just going to do that right in this outer portion to really concentrate the depth towards that area. I really like how the 3 of those shades built off each other. I feel like it looks very beautiful. For shimmers today, I think I'm going to go into Copper Penny and then Garnet Mountain, and I'm going to do the garnet on the outside to the Copper Penny on the inner part, and then we'll go ahead and do some inner corner work. And these are the very, very soft Super Shock formula, so I'm not even going to spray my brush. I'm just going to go ahead and pop it directly on the eye. This is Garnet Mountain. It's very pretty. It looks a lot more purple on the eye than it does in the pan, but that is a-okay. I love how easy to blend Nomad's softer shimmer formula is. It's one of my favorites. Next, I'm layering that copper right on the inner part of my lid to meet the garnet shade, and boy, do these colors look gorgeous together. Super stunning. I got a little bit of fallout on this eye, so I'm just taking my foundation brush and I'm just gonna kind of buff that in. I know that's not the best way to rid of fallout, but I'm feeling a little lazy, so it's fine. For my brow bone and inner corner highlight, I'm gonna pop into Tombstone, which is this Top Gold Champagne shimmer. There are 2 lighter shimmers in this palette, and this one is a little bit warmer than this one right here. This one is Rhyolite Nevada. So I'm going to pop into Tombstone. I'm just taking that on a little BH fan brush, and I'm just gently going to highlight right under my brow bone. I don't need it to be too intense. I just want a little bit of shine. Also popping that same shade right in my inner corner just to brighten that up a little bit. And for my lower lash line, I'm going back into Bandit Queen and also Copper Penny, and I'm just going to smoke those on my lower lash line. We're definitely going for a deeper, grungier look today, a little bit more on the messy side, but I'm going to go ahead and finish this look off camera, and then we'll be back to share the final first look. All right, friends, this is the first look completed. I went for more of a messy, grungy look today. We popped on a big wing because, you know, super big wings are always my thing. And then I was just feeling a nice grungy red lip. So I hope that this look came together perfectly. I quite enjoy it. I think it's a little more subtle than what I normally do for my colorful looks. I feel like when I'm playing with color, I want to really play with color. But I love how this look turned out, and I feel like this is a good wearable everyday look. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the second look. All right, friends, let's go ahead and dive into look number 2 today. I think I want to do something a little bit more dramatic and I'm thinking I want to go into these darker blues. I'm very intrigued by this shifty, it's almost like a duochrome. It looks like a purple to gold reflect. I feel like that would be fun. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just wing it. I don't have any sort of plan for today's look. We're just gonna, I guess, make it up as we go. For today's look, I'm just prepping with my P. Louise base, and I'm not going to set it today. Normally I set it with a cream or a white, but I really want to do some vibrant pigment, so I think I'm just going to leave it wet. The first shade I want to go into is Undead Sheriff, which is this really nice taupey contour-ish shade. And we used this one in yesterday's look. It was very light. It was just the perfect eye contouring shade. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in my crease. I'm also very gently popping it on the inner and outer parts of my eyelid. I'm gonna try and leave the middle of my eyelid itself pretty open, but I'm gonna build up the shades on the edges and on the sides of my eye. I'm feeling kind of like a halo eye today, so I think that's the direction I'm gonna go. Next, I'm gonna pop into this lightest slate grayish blue shade, and I'm going to go ahead and pop that right on top of Undead Sheriff. I'm just going to do this to add a little bit more blue to the look. I love the shade that those two created. I feel like it creates the most perfect murky blue. Next, I'm going to go into the middle of the blue row. This is Calamity Jane. I'm just gonna take that on that same brush that I used for the lightest blue, and I'm going to really concentrate this on the outer corner and inner corner of my eye, leaving this middle space blank for my halo eye today. And with a very light hand, I'm gonna go ahead and connect both the inner and outer portions, just so there's a little bit of that depth right in the middle of my eyelid, but I don't want too much. Before I finish adding depth with the darkest blue, I'm gonna go ahead and go into my NYX glitter primer, and I'm going to just prep the middle of my eyelids, and we're gonna do some shimmers. For the NYX glitter glue, I like to just drop a little bit on my hand, and then I take a concealer brush. I find that that is the best way to work with this particular formula, and I'm just going to start in the center of my lid and work my way up. I'm gonna go just above my natural crease. I have very small eyes, so I like to open my eyes up a little bit with a more dramatic crease. And I'm really only putting that glitter primer right there in the middle of my eye where there's no shadow yet. I'm just gonna do one eye first. I'm gonna start with Ghost Town, which is that duochrome purple with a gold shift to it. And I'm going to pop that on the edges of the center of my eye. So I'm still gonna leave a teeny tiny bit open right in the center of my eye, but I'm gonna plop this one right on the edges where we stuck the glitter primer. I'm trying to find that sweet spot where you can still see what I'm doing on my eye, but I'm not blocking my little lamp. One of these days I'm gonna get a ring light, but that day is not today. Next, I'm gonna take just the tiniest bit of Quicksilver on my finger, and I'm gonna pop that right in the middle of my lid, just to create a nice little streaky line. And I can go back in with my brush just to feather the edges of that just a tiny bit so it's not so harsh, but essentially that is how it's gonna look. I know it looks a little weird right now. We're going to trust the process. I'm gonna go ahead and do this eye, and then we'll meet back to finish off the eye look. Y'all, the way this looks on camera does not do it justice. It is so reflective and beautiful in person. But for now, I'm going to take a detail smudger, and I'm going to go into Dead Man's Hand, which is that deepest blue. And this I'm literally just going to put on the inner and outer corners of my eye. I'm going to even tap off the excess. And I'm going to just really deepen up those inner and outer corners and very, very lightly blend it up into the purple shifty shimmer. For my lower lash line, I want to kind of mimic what we did on the top. So first I'm going to go into Calamity Jane, which is that mid-tone. I say mid-tone, but it's still a pretty deep blue. And I'm going to put that on the inner and outer corners of my lower lash line. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop Ghost Train right in the center of my lower lashes. I'm going to quickly pop off camera to do some liner, lashes, and lip, and then we'll meet back to see the final results of today's look. All right, friends, this is the second look complete. What do we think? I personally really like the color combination of the blue and the purple, that little duochrome, and just that extra little sparkle right in the center of the lid. I am a fan. I am here for it. I feel like this is one of those looks that it looks super glamorous, super dramatic, but it's really not all that complicated. So I am very excited to see what more I can create with this beautiful palette. But let's go ahead and dive into our third and final look in today's video. All right, friends, let's go ahead and dive into look number 3 today. Today, I want to play with those green tones right on the end. I wore my alien sweater just for the vibes. We're gonna just do some green goodness. As always, I have zero idea of what I'm doing going into it, but I do know I want to start with Ghost Town, which is this light sagey green matte. I'm going to just pop that all over my crease, and then I guess we'll just go from there. Next, I'm going to go into that middle tone sage green. This is Stagecoach Mary. I'm going to take that just on that same brush I was using. This is a Glam Light Michaela 01 brush. I'm just going to use that, pop that in the crease, and blend that into the first sagey shade we did. And that is a lot darker than I thought it was. That's okay. We're just going to work with it. Next, I think I'm going to go into this middle slate blue Calamity Jane, and I'm just going to take that on a detailed smudger brush, and I'm going to very lightly put that in my crease. I don't want to take too much, but I just want to add a tiny bit of depth right at my natural crease. As always, look how smooth that those mattes blended in together. I am so impressed with how blendable they are. I don't know why I'm always impressed, because they're always like this. They always blend so nice. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of my NYX glitter glue. This is one of my favorite shimmer primers to use, and I'm just going to pop that all over my lid, and we're just going to go from there. Winging it. I mentioned this in one of my earlier looks, but I normally do glitter primer one eye at a time. That way it stays tacky and I can put down all the shades without worrying about it drying down. To start off, I'm going to dip into Gold Rush, which is this kind of gold with an olive hint to it. It's just a nice olivey gold shimmer. I'm just popping that right on the inner part of my lid, building up that pigment. And then next I'm going into more of this lime shimmer. This is Calico California, and I'm going to pop that all over the rest of my lid. I do like to take the shimmer and kind of go up above my natural crease just a little bit. My eyes are pretty small, so I like to mimic having a little bit larger, more wide open eyes. So I'm just dragging that up into my natural crease and just a tiny bit above. Just to soften that transition, I'm going to take my detailed blender and I'm going to just very lightly go over the edges of those shimmers, just so we don't have any harsh lines. It kind of blends the mattes and the shimmers together. Next, I'm popping back into Calamity Jane on that detailed blender, and I am going to really concentrate that in the outer corner, blending it into the shimmers, just to blend all of that together. And of course, I want to try this Deep Brown Matte Arrested Decay again on that same brush. We're doing quick, easy, very minimal brushes in today's look. I'm just popping this one right in that outer corner to add some depth to the look. And of course, I'm just blending out the edges using that brush I used for the lighter sage green matte. For my lower lash line, I'm going to start with that mid-tone sage. This is Stagecoach Mary, and I'm just going to buff that on the lower lashes. Just doing a nice blown out smoky look today. And using that same brush, I'm going to go into the light sage. This is Ghost Town. I'm just using Ghost Town to buff out that dark shade I put on the lower lashes. And for my inner corner today, we're going to pop into Rhyolite Nevada. That's just that cooler tone champagne shimmer. And I'm just going to pop that right on my inner corner. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pop off camera. I'm going to do some winged liner, some lashes, and then we'll meet back for the third and final look. And we are back. Here is the third and final look completed. I think this one just might be my favorite out of the 3 that we did in today's video. Before we wrap up today's video, I did just want to do some comparisons with some of the other existing Nomad palettes. I am quite the Nomad Cosmetics lover. I do have a few palettes here to compare, but if you are interested in picking up anything off of the Nomad website, you can use my code Jessi for 10% off your entire order. It is not an affiliate code, it is just for you to save some money off. Immediately right off the bat, especially with the vibes and the packaging and the layout, it really reminded me of the Nomad Haunted Europe palette. This was my long-standing favorite in my collection until the Provence palette came out last year, but I feel like these two could easily be sisters, cousins, whatever it will be. And if we open them up, you can see that they have very similar vibes with kind of those reds and the browns and the blues and the greens. Only the Haunted Europe is a little bit more on the warm side. Instead of cool tone, we have more of those warm tones. And then the Ghost Town is definitely leaning more cool toned, a little bit more muted. So the Haunted Europe is going to give you more of those bright grungy colors, whereas the Ghost Town is going to give you the true grungy, muted, neutral type colors. I do think they're both really great. I am excited to play with these two together. The Haunted Europe is no longer available, but the Ghost Town is still available, and I will link that in the description below. Even the outer packaging has similar vibes. This is the Haunted Europe and this is the Ghost Town. As you can see, they have very similar layouts in terms of design, with the Nomad and then a symbol, and even the fonts of the palettes are very similar. So those are the two outer packaging. The other Nomad palette it reminded me a lot of is actually the Hudson Valley. This was the fall palette for last year, and honestly the only part that really reminded me of the Ghost Town is this half of the palette, the more cool tones. You have some of those muted greenish blue shades and even the cool tone neutrals, which I feel like is very complementary to the ones in the Ghost Town palette. So again, while not dupes for each other, they do have kind of similar vibes. If you look just at the cool tones in the Hudson Valley, these two could also make really great companion palettes to one another. So if you're looking for a dupeable palette within your collection, I'd say the closest would be the Haunted Europe, but the Hudson Valley does have some very close cool tones. Now on to my very quick and mini review of the Ghost Town palette. I did receive this one in PR, so I did not spend any money on it. I believe it retails for $54. Like I said, I will link that information in the description box below, and you can also use my code Jessi for 10% off your purchase if you are interested in picking this one up. I personally am a huge fan of the holographic reflective packaging. This just gives me life. I think it's so cool. Even my husband, who's not into makeup, thought this was nifty. And color story wise, I feel like this is a very well-rounded palette. You have the neutrals, you have the blues and the greens. I feel like there's a lot you can do. We did do a very neutral look as our first look, but we've also done a more blue look, and now today a more green look. I feel like there's a lot you can do, and it's colorful without being too in your face. It's not as colorful as, say, the Nomad Paradise palette. I feel like it's colorful in a very muted way, which can make it very approachable and also give you more of those grungy looks, which I'm really excited about because I feel like I wear a lot of cool tones and grungy colors on my everyday life. To me, my favorite shades I used are definitely the neutral mattes and the greens and blues over here. I would say that this green right here, Calico California, it is the one that we did right in the middle of the lid. That's probably my favorite shade in the whole palette. I also really liked Quicksilver, which is that really reflective, pretty bluish silver shade. So overall, I feel like the color story itself is very interesting. The quality performs just as I would hope for a Nomad palette. I would say the one shade that wasn't my favorite was Gold Rush right here. I felt like it was a different formula than the other shimmers I tried. It was more of a topper shade, which is partially on me for using it as a standalone shimmer. But when I used Gold Rush right in the inner part of my lid, I felt like I had to build it up, and it took multiple layers to get the opacity I wanted. So I really feel like that shade was meant to be more of a topper shade. And like I said, that is partially on me for using it in a way that it probably wasn't intended. So would I recommend purchasing this one? Personally, I really enjoyed it. This is one that if I hadn't received it in PR, I probably would have purchased it anyway because I just really like the color story. And if you're a cool tone girly and love those cooler tones, I really feel like this one might be your perfect cool tone palette. I know a lot of brands tend to lean more towards the warm tone neutrals, and it's hard to find a really good cool tone palette that doesn't muddy or doesn't wash people out. And as someone that's pretty fair and has to use a ton of bronzer to look like I even have an ounce of color in my face, I really feel like these cool tones didn't make me look ashy or didn't wash me out. So I did appreciate that as well. And with that, my friends, that is today's video completed. I hope you guys enjoyed the 3 looks. Let me know down below which one your favorite was. And also let me know if you're planning on picking up this palette or if you have a different Halloween palette in mind. Be sure to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye, friends!